And continuing eastbound, you can see it's now a 3-lane section of road instead of 4 lanes. So there's the center two-way left turn lane or left turn lane at intersections. And then the concrete separation. You can even see the trash sitting on top of the mobility lanes and how that works out. Might be more difficult in the snow right now, but yeah, anyway, I just thought, and then there's some pedestrian refuge islands, 2 of them on this section to allow people to cross the street easier. Oh, someone's crossing the street without the
Bailey,
island.
did you have to like do outreach to the homeowners to educate them on where and how to place their trash and recycle bins? I was kind of curious about that when I saw them out one day.
Yeah, we did send like a postcard or a mailer kind of telling them about it. And I also, the residents I had been in contact with on designing this, like had talked and met with them about that as well. And so, yeah, that was, and it's continued outreach because it's not working, as well as some people would like, especially the people without driveways or people who are older who don't want to like lift their thing onto the barrier. Like it is difficult. And so, there's different cities who've done different things for trash receptacles in the buffer zone, but um, yeah, well, we're figuring it out as we go. But right now, the intent is that the trash goes on top of the barriers or in the buffer zone, but like in someone's driveway, because the barrier stops like 5 feet before their driveway. So there's some space between the barrier. So they wouldn't put it like in their driveway. They could still exit and enter, but not everyone has a driveway. And so that's not an option for everyone. There's like a couple houses that don't have that. So.
What's the height of the barrier?
It's 4 inches, but I think it's like 2 inches with the asphalt. So it's, yeah, 4 inches above the asphalt. hmm
That's
Anyway, sorry,
really
Teresa.
cool. No, that's awesome. Your construction crew or designers got that video for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Um, okay. Well, I kind of jumped the gun. I explained the project background already. Does anyone have questions about how we got here?
I'll maybe also just add like this project was um in the works for Kansas City, like for a long time because the Gillum cycle track was great and is like a great north-south connector, but since that implementation, there's been a gap between that and the trolley track trail. And so the Gillum cycle track was initially like 3.5 miles, and then the trolley trail, is another 6.5-ish miles. And the gap between them is only like 1 mile. And Cleaver Boulevard is the busiest street in that gap. So we're almost filling the gap doing this project, which is kind of like the background as to why the city was moving forward with this project. Oh,
Yeah, I'm
and
sure we can share that, Noelle, the video.
yeah, and I'll show
Yeah.
you, I can send a picture of our street cleaning. We actually have like a specific bike lane sweeper um, that we just got last year.
I actually have some pictures and videos of that if people are interested in that. They happened to be out there cleaning the bike lanes the day that we were doing the intercept surveys for this project. So we got to see them and talk to the drivers a little bit. Okay, I already explained how this fits in to the overarching plan. So that's really exciting. We're supporting the goals of Kansas Cityans getting more active. Okay, so these were some of our general observations on Thursday. I think it was October 17th. We got super lucky with the weather. We had a group of about 15, 16 volunteers throughout 2 shifts that day. We were out from 11 to 1 and then 4 to 6. And we were mostly just administering intercept surveys. So we had a bunch of surveys printed off. We had the surveys on QR codes too. Me and Bailey were there. Patrick volunteered as well. Natalie had offered to volunteer, but we had so many people sign up that we didn't need more help. So we're super grateful to all the people that were able to lend their time that day. But these were some of the things people noticed just standing out there for several hours that day. And something to keep in mind too is we were out there within like the first week of this infrastructure being installed. So I think Bailey and I had kind of had the hope too that once people got a little more used to it, we might see some better compliance with the infrastructure that's out there. But it is a pretty big change for drivers. So we saw some, naughty driver behavior that we hope will change in time. One of the biggest things being Bailey and I were at the Oak Street and Cleaver intersection for the surveys, and I didn't know that right on red was already prohibited there, and there's signs that clearly state it. And I mean, I saw 50 cars. I mean, nobody was following that rule. It was really interesting, actually. But now that we have the bike lane there, like that becomes like that much more important, that people are like truly stopping and really paying attention to, bikers that, would be in their blind spot if they're looking left to make a right on red. So yeah, we kind of talked about why that maybe like wasn't being followed and stuff like that. We talked to so many people. People were super excited about this. Like, we didn't talk to drivers when we were out there. So their perspectives might be different, but people walking and biking were honestly pretty thrilled, and it was nice to have chats with them. People want to see more connections. We have this great segment, and then because of like the streetcar construction that's happening, this infrastructure stops at Oak Street. So we have a gap now from Oak before you hit the plaza. And, there's a pretty big intersection there at Brookside Boulevard, Broadway area that can be tricky to navigate. So people want to see more connections, which I believe the city is going to keep working on the full connection to Trolley and Gillum, like fully closing those gaps in the next construction season. So we are going to see that. Signal operations matter. Bailey, can you speak to that one?
Yeah, I think part of what we were seeing at the intersection of Cleaver and Street was that there isn't like a long enough dedicated left turn phase, or there wasn't a dedicated left turn phase at all. But when you have, I guess, like less lanes going through, and it partially was because of the streetcar construction up at like Main Street, but there wasn't enough gaps for people to turn left, or there was like odd yielding. And so just noting that, like, oh, adding these mobility lanes may change the nature of how people interact at that intersection, and maybe needing to look at some more dedicated left turn phases.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that reminder. Yeah. Non-commuters using the facilities. Oh yeah, there were just a lot of people out there like going on walks, and like some people were walking in the bike lanes. It was great. It was kind of just operating as like an extension of the sidewalk in several instances. Because there are some unfortunate areas on Cleaver where lighting and utility poles have been installed in the middle of the sidewalks. And so in areas where pedestrians used to be extremely pinched for space, they can actually just pop into the bike lane now. Assuming they have, they're able-bodied. So not everyone would be able to do that, but it is helping some people at least to have a little more space and protection when they're walking. Okay, so I didn't update the number taken online. We had almost 200 surveys total. So whatever 200 minus 40 is. We had the online survey available for 5 weeks. It was the exact same survey that we did in person. We were just sort of doing kind of like an awareness campaign the day we went out there and did intercept surveys and wanted to talk to people and see how things were working. The MyoVision cameras, the cameras that we use to count people biking and people walking, those just give us the numbers, which is extremely valuable, as we'll see in a couple of slides. But we like pairing it with a user survey, because we're able to ask people, like, have you changed your commuting patterns because you have this protected infrastructure now? How do you feel because of this infrastructure? Like, do you have any comments about how it's working for you? There were some people who were really thoughtful in the comment section, especially in the online survey, who have ridden the lanes a lot, providing just some really thoughtful feedback on how to make it better. They were super grateful, but also had like almost some technical bits of advice of how it could be a better experience when we keep designing and refining the way that we are building this kind of infrastructure. Oh, hello, Patrick. Okay, here's our survey results. Okay, so this isn't all the questions. I pulled out the ones that I thought were the most interesting for our purposes. So most people that took the survey or regularly use Cleaver are using it to bike, but there's also a lot of people that are walking or using it for jogging recreationally or for exercise. And I love this question. It's for people who are only biking, but it's, if you were not biking for this trip, how would you be traveling? And, almost 2/3 of people say like, I'd be in a car. So I think that's a really powerful message. Have the new bike and ped amenities made you feel safer? Yes. Love seeing this. There's still some people that are like, no, didn't need them, don't care about stuff like this. And we get a lot of pushback sometimes from people who are extremely comfortable. They will literally bike on anything, anywhere. And that's fantastic. I mean, the sky is the limit then if you feel that comfortable riding. But what we find and what research shows is that that is like 1 to 2% of the biking population, specifically talking about bikes here. And we have this huge other portion of the population that would bike, but isn't, if they had infrastructure that made it feel more comfortable and safe for them. Bailey, a question I had for you and thinking about this one, because there were a handful of comments for people saying, these bike lanes have made it harder for me to bike on Cleaver. Like, I don't want them. I prefer biking in the road. This was in the minority, but there were some people that said that. Are people still allowed by code to bike in the road if there is an available bike facility?
Yes.
Okay.
Per our code, they are still you're allowed to bike wherever. I will say, there are some people who would like that code maybe changed, because they're like,
Sure.
oh, if there's a bike facility, they should have to use it. But that is not currently in our code.
Okay. Do you know what the best practice is on that? Because normally I feel like most codes I read require people biking to use a bike lane if it's there, and even require people walking to use a sidewalk if it's there.
Mm. I it's hard to say. I don't think I have a very like specific answer, and maybe
Oh,
others
that's
on the
okay.
call do. But
Yeah,
think-
no, I'm just curious.
I think Kansas statute, like state statute, does require you to use a bike path, like if it's present. But I'm not representing that as a best practice or anything.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm just curious because I get that comes up a lot, and I've never really been sure. But that's good to know that in KCMO, for people who are like, I hate the Cleaver bike lanes, great. Don't use them, just bike in the road. So we can tell people that if they don't like them. Okay, so we had hundreds of comments, like I said, and for the most part, I felt like the ones I pulled out were sort of representative of themes that I was reading throughout all of them. So many people just were excited and wanted to see more, and we're very grateful that we have them now. I loved this one. I've gone from actively avoiding the street to feeling like it's a lovely addition for my walk to and from work. Why did we wait so long? I also, wanted to be fair to people who didn't appreciate them and think that they are ugly, litter-filled waste of taxpayer money. There are some people that feel that way about protected infrastructure. And I don't know if that's a culture thing or, we're just not used to it because you can still drive on that street. From my experience, at least it moves pretty well even during heavy traffic times, but change is hard. And I also thought this last one was really interesting. The full protection is awesome, but from their perspective, they'd take a quick style build in more places throughout the city over the concrete protected option, which I thought that was actually really interesting. And just something to noodle on. You want to talk about this one, Bailey?
Sure. So some of the residents gathered some noise readings just from an app on their phone for me. And the pre-readings averaged out at 79 decibels. And then some of the volunteers took some readings as they were out taking intercept surveys, and those averaged out 84 decibels. So really wasn't that much change in the noise readings. I did want to just test it out and see, like, did a road diet make the road quieter for the residents who live along there, or not, but really not much change there.
Bailey, I wonder if they, similar to the MyoVision cameras, I wonder if they make noise reading cameras where you can leave them out for like a 14-hour period and get a better sense of things. Because I think this is really interesting. But I don't know if that exists or not.
Yeah, so I had reached out to our health department actually, because our health department is kind of in charge of monitoring noise complaints and different things. And the health department has a noise reading machine, but yeah, it's not one that you can leave out for a long time. You have to go take the measurements yourself. I bet there are some that exist that can be left out, but I wasn't aware of any that we had here. So
Interesting. Okay. Okay, so our cameras were out there for a full day, like I think 13 or 14 hours, 6 to 7 or 6 to 8. Same amount of time as the pre-count, so we could do an apples to apples comparison. They were at Oak and Rock Hill, both times. And we found that walking and biking numbers along Cleaver more than doubled after the new bike and ped amenities were installed. So it was a very fun meeting the day Bailey and I went over that because we were both really excited. And I said I had never seen Bailey so happy before. So anyway, this is really exciting. So we've got the actual tables. They were too big to kind of show side by side. So these are the Rock Hill Road counts. The pre-counts were conducted in May of the previous year, and the post-counts were conducted in October. And when we saw the difference here, we actually checked the weather because we were like, this seems crazy. But it was a very mild, nice spring day on May 16th of 2023. I want to say it was like 70 degrees, partly sunny. Like there was no rain, no precipitation, anything like that. And October 9th, the day we had them out, was super similar. We always watch the weather and we'll change when we put cameras out if it's going to be rainy or, there's some event happening or something. Like the KC Marathon was happening the weekend we did the survey counts. Like we wouldn't put cameras out on a big event like that, so it would just totally mess up the numbers. So as far as we could tell, this was a pretty even comparison. And, the only major difference is that now there's a protected bike lane and protected mid-block crossings and many more crossing opportunities for people, plus the road diet. So that was really interesting. Oak Street, similar. Bailey, do you want to say anything specifically about these? I can go back to the other one too if you want.
So on the right is kind of just the total at the intersection. But if you like hone in specifically on Cleaver, that facility is an east and a westbound, facility. And so like here at Oak Street, eastbound and westbound had 6 and 3 in the pre-counts for bikes, and then in the post count, you see that 11 and 12 and the 18 and 11. So you can see, like Patrick, probably to your point on your own commute, like instead of going up the hill on Oak, people have maybe started to go more east-west on the protected infrastructure as it's a flatter route. And so just noting that, we can look either at the specific direction or just kind of looking at the intersection as a whole. But it is interesting because really that east-west has increased if you look at that particularly.
Any questions or comments on like the numbers, the data, or thoughts? Okay.
Those are people going through the intersection in those directions. Are they turning or? Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out where to
Yeah,
zoom in on this table.
you're okay, Patrick. That's a great question. I don't
Mhm.
know actually how MyoVision captures someone who might be going north
Oh.
on Oak and then turn east,
Uh-huh.
right? Like, are they counted? I think they'd be counted as an eastbound
Mhm.
cyclist, so kind of where you're exiting the intersection in what direction. But that might be a great question, Teresa, if you could confirm with MyoVision, and I could maybe help type out the question to confirm. But like, yeah, how are pedestrians and cyclists counted if they're turning at the intersection? Are they counted as their approach or their exit?
I'm pretty sure it's their exit.
Okay.
Yeah, just from looking at the charts and the way they have the arrows, but we can definitely confirm that. That's a great
I
question.
will. Yeah, and just noting to all of you on the call, like the point of doing this study and hopefully the study on, is it Mission Road for the KCK stuff
Yeah.
when that gets done, these are meant to be used for like all of you to be able to share with others. And so Teresa and I will share this report with you, and sure, it's only one day of pre-counts and one day of post-counts, but still it can be telling, and hopefully we can go back again next year, whether the city obtains counts a year from now, to see how it's doing. But yeah, just this will be shared with everyone.
Yeah,
When it
I'm.
says,
Oh, go ahead,
sorry,
Patrick.
when it says bicycles on crosswalk, yeah, I wasn't sure exactly what that meant.
Ooh, that might be
There's
another great question.
there's a
Yeah,
lot more than now.
because we have like green paint through the intersections in the bike lanes, which is, to me, I wouldn't call the crosswalk because it's like the bike crosswalk, I suppose. So that might be, yeah, Patrick, it's a great question. Another thing to confirm, does bikes on crosswalk mean bikes on the green paint? So they're in the bike lane, and then bikes on road would be in the vehicular lane, or like maybe it might be hard for those cameras to actually differentiate the two. Not 100% certain there. Maybe we should just combine and just have bikes total instead of having
Yeah,
split out.
we can also clarify how they're differentiating between those two. The bikes on crosswalk definitely seems like it's the green paint that like they're in the bike lane, they're crossing the road. But how are they differentiating on road? Yeah, I'm not sure.
How did the MyoVision cameras work? Are they being interpreted by someone, or is it kind of distinguishing it itself?
It's AI. Like
It's
it's a,
AI, okay.
yeah, and so but I will say though, like 2 years ago, um, there was something very weird that happened on some counts we were doing in North Kansas City. And by weird, I mean everyone was like, that's way too many people on the Heart of America Bridge. There's no way. So I spent a really long time watching every single video and tallying it by hand. And the only errors it made were, I mean, it was off by like 3 or 4. Like one of the things it counted was a person on a riding lawnmower, and they counted that as a bike, which I mean, they're not driving. So, but that's all to say. And that was like 2 or 3 years ago. And I have to imagine their bots have improved. So we have found anytime we've done manual checks that it's very
Pretty
accurate.
accurate.
Yeah,
Okay,
the margin of error is really low.
that's cool.
We'll confirm those questions you asked, Patrick, though, and see what they say. So thank you for asking.
Interesting, there's a few more people going westbound because that's the end of the lanes. So they're
Mhm.
maybe using the lanes to continue onto the plaza.
We saw people doing that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of your best options to, like, if you, like, where I live, I would have to do that. And it stinks, but that's your only option. So it wouldn't surprise me. I linked this or shared the PowerPoint or the PDF of it in the email to you guys yesterday, I'm pretty sure. So you all have access to this. And if you have more questions or comments, please let us know. So in terms of next steps, yeah, I'd mentioned we're sharing it with you guys. We're presenting at BPAC in March. Bike Walk KC has been spreading the word about this. Bailey is using it to help continue to justify, projects like these and the difference that they make. Bailey mentioned this already, we do think it would be really neat to repeat these counts next year. I mean, maybe next October if we have a nice fall again. I think our suspicion is that we'll see even more people using them. Because I mean, the fact that we put these counts out like within a week or so of the infrastructure being done, because we just wanted to make sure we got the counts before the weather turned. Otherwise, we probably would have waited a little longer, but it's pretty incredible the usage we saw. Yeah, and we just want to be able to keep building more protected infrastructure. So Bailey continues to be an incredible advocate for infrastructure like this at City Hall. But she's just one person. And so if you are really excited about this and live in KCMO, please reach out to your council members and let them know why this matters to you, why you think it's important, and that you want to see more and where you want to see it. Bailey, anything else?
I mean, thanks for the high praise. It is just my job to build it, so I don't want to overstate what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm
but you could be bad at your
doing my job.
job.
I could be bad at my job. Anyway, thank you. Yeah, no, this is exciting. I'll probably share this information with City Council as we go to them to possibly get more roads approved to do for next year. I'm currently working on that list of what's possible to do next year. But it's all pending, their funding. So
Is there anything about that you can share with us for people who live and interact with KCMO, like where we could maybe expect bike lanes, or is it too premature?
yeah, it's probably not super public, but I don't mind sharing a few that are on my potential list for next year. One of them would be connecting to this, just doing the little stretch of Harrison Street between where Gillum ends right now and where it reaches Cleaver.
Yeah.
I don't currently have intent to do anything on Oak Street next year because we did kind of the Rock Hill south of Cleaver there. Others possibly in the works might be, we did American Royal Drive this year by Hy-Vee Arena and potentially extending that up to on Genesee through the West Bottoms up to 12th Street. With a more longer term vision of maybe having a 12th Street connection to downtown. So that might happen. And then possibly one more in Columbus Park and River Market is on my like potential list for next year. 3rd Street or Industrial Traffic Way. I don't know if anyone goes down that way, but anyway, those are just a few, but working on, you know, meeting
Yeah.
with city leadership to define what's going to happen next year.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing what you can. I think people are really excited about it. Oh, happy volunteers. Thank you. Okay. Well, that's what we wanted to share with you guys today. I think from, I don't know, other people's perspectives, if there's anything we can do to help support like other cities that I know we're not all in KCMO on this call. If there's things or questions you have or specific resistance you've come up against in your own communities that, yeah, we can help give you guys information or anything, please let us know, and please feel free to use this information as well for justification in your own communities. We will send an updated version of this once we've clarified exactly how they're differentiating between those two bike counts, and also where the counts are happening, whether it's on the approach or the exit of the intersection. And I'll get the survey numbers updated on there too, since I had missed that. But if there's other questions you have that we could put in there or help answer, please let us know.
Yeah, if we just understand what on crosswalk means, might want to make sure you're not doubling up on the counts, but
Absolutely.
I don't need the whole.
Yeah, I was formulating an email to send you all with that video and then some photos attached of like our bike lane sweeper and stuff. But I don't think I have everyone's email. Chris and
I do.
Lauren. Oh, okay, you do. Okay. I'll get them from you then. Thanks, Teresa.
I'm gonna send out the notes too, so I could attach it to those if you send it to me.
Okay, great. Yeah, I will just send it to you and Teresa then. And you can
Bailey, on the design of that, did you like determine, the width of that separation? Like, was it specifically for the purpose of being able to put a trash can on there? Or does that width have some other safety reason for cyclists versus maybe like a more narrow separation?
Yeah, we used a like 3-foot width for the barrier. Our trash cans are like 2'6" or 8". So giving, at least a little bit of wiggle room there. But thankfully the road kind of allowed for that width where we weren't needing to, move the curb line. Preferred buffer distances and like the NACTO design guide, I think is 3 foot. So wanting to follow that. And then since our road had enough width to do that, we just went with that. And I think 11-foot lanes along there. And so, yeah, I don't know, it worked out nicely where we didn't really have to like negotiate much on widths. I do know that our maintenance staff would have preferred the bike lane to maybe be a little bit wider. In some places it's 7 feet wide, which is wide enough where like a truck could plow it with just its blade on front. But in other sections it's only 6 feet wide, so it has to be like a little gator or a different machine to plow it. And so ideally, maybe, you know, we would have been able to accommodate a wider actual bike lane width, but with the need for like the trash barrier to be like 3 foot, that wasn't possible in this section by people's houses. It wasn't wide enough for that. So those are, yeah, some of the things that were considered there.
Bailey, when do you think was the earliest we'll be able to get like safety data, like, you know, kind of comparison safety data from before and after? Because I think that's going to be really interesting too.
Yeah, that will be interesting. You know, usually we don't pull safety data until at least like 3 years
Mhm.
after, but we have started to pull some other information, you know, within like a year and a half or 2 years after things, just to check preliminarily.
Mhm.
But specifically on like mobility facilities like this one, it's difficult to analyze specifically like bike safety, because if you didn't have any facilities there before, which we didn't on the section in front of the Nelson, like it's hard to measure bicyclist safety when like no one maybe was biking there before, but now you have this new infrastructure, so you're getting like, you know,
Mhm.
20 times as many bikers or whatnot. And so
Oh,
it
yeah.
might not be like completely accurate to, I don't know, just look at like bike crashes or such. But we can look at like overall vehicular safety too.
Well, that's what I was thinking about, because one of the
Okay.
reasons the residents were so happy to see it was because like people would just fly down Cleaver. And yeah, I think getting those numbers in will be really good too.
Yeah. Yeah, we really need to be doing better of getting like pre and post speed data, because we can capture speed data like relatively soon after implementing things, but we didn't get any like pre-speed data here. So unfortunately that's not one that we can measure, but great thoughts though.
Bailey, it's interesting to hear that. I understand from the maintenance perspective, a wider lane is really helpful from a debris and snow removal perspective, but when the bike lanes, it's interesting because on the flip side of that is if cars can fit in the bike lane, it
Yeah.
becomes an issue of people parking and misusing the bike lane. So that's kind of an interesting pro con I hadn't fully thought about before. So yeah,
Yeah.
just interesting.
I know. I think like 7 feet is a pretty good sweet spot, because it feels like very narrow for a car to fit down, and they definitely couldn't like speed down that, but it would be wide enough for, you know, a truck to go plow it. But I do, yeah, I really do like a 7 foot width, especially when like you can, if you're a faster cyclist, you could maybe pass someone in that width, whereas like a 5 foot width, you maybe aren't comfortable passing a biker.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's awesome. I pulled up my pictures and video of the sweeper. Is that what you're sending to people, Bailey?
Yeah,
Okay,
but you could
perfect.
send a video too. I only have a photo of it, so.
Sure, yeah. Okay, I'll show the video I have of it. Awesome. Well, does anyone else have questions, comments, anything?
I
Okay.
will just say thank you all for I don't know. Yeah, thank you all for helping us to like approve this as a KCPA project. I know it's like this one in particular is very city of KCMO oriented, but hopefully you all can use it. And I hope that it feels aligned, or is, you know, it is aligned with the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan, and that it can be used to, you know, further the goals of the physical activity plan. So thank you all.
In the chat, I just want to mention our Kansas City Physical Activity Plan. We're hosting our quarterly meeting in December here on Friday. This particular topic is going to be more early childhood focused, but if any of you have contacts in that area, you're welcome to come. There's virtual and in-person options, and breakfast if you come to the in-person one at the Kauffman Foundation Conference Center. We also give sector updates for each of the sectors of the KCPA plan at that meeting, but we're gonna hold off this meeting on talking about the report because I think we're gonna feature us at the next meeting. But yeah, it's at 9 a.m. this Friday.
Thanks, Natalie. Great.
Cool.
Garrett, I saw you come off mute. Did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say, I appreciate hearing about the updates on this. It's very cool to see.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate that. We put a lot of work into it, but super happy the results came out in our in our favor.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have made such a stink about it if we didn't. I'm
That's
just kidding. I forgot this is being recorded. You should cut that part out, Natalie. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your support. Give us some time for those follow-ups. It might take us a little bit to hear back from MyoVision, but you can look for an email from us in a week or two. And yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out for support if we can help with stuff in your own communities. And then just before we jump off here, let's see. We've been doing these meetings every other month, I'm pretty sure. So our next one, I don't know, will be sometime in February. We maybe haven't gotten these scheduled out on our calendars yet. So Bailey and I will follow up. But it'll be sometime in early February, probably the first Tuesday of February. That seems to be when we've been doing them. So we'll get you guys an updated invitation for that. So yeah, thanks all for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. We'll see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.